What's up everybody, Commander Sanctum here, and today we have a brand new deck tech using Rendmaw, Creaking Nest. Rendmaw is a 5/5 Scarecrow for 3 black-green that has Menace, Reach, and when Rendmaw enters and whenever you play a card with 2 or more card types, each player creates a tapped 2/2 black bird creature token with flying. The tokens are goated for the rest of the game. Rendmaw is definitely one of those commanders that wants you to help your opponents kill your other opponents, while also slowly building your own army for when it's down to 1v1. Since the only real theme with Rendmaw is cards with multiple card types, this deck tech will be mostly focused on Golgari good stuff, specifically with cards that have multiple types, alongside some ways to help get a benefit over opponents in the late game. With that, let's get to the card highlights. To start out with, let's look at some good mana dorks that can help trigger Rendmaw's ability. This includes the typical mirror mana dorks in Copper Mirror, Leaden Mirror, and Palladium Mirror, which are all both artifacts and creatures. While none of these cards are particularly flashy, they are important to make sure we can ramp out our better spells as early as possible, while also getting us some birds if they're cast later in the game. We also have Ornithopter of Paradise, which is another generic mana dork, but at least taps for any color of mana and has flying. We also have a new card in Twitching Doll, which is going to be the best of the mana dorks we have access to due to its second ability. Creating a potentially large number of 2/2 spiders later in the game is never a bad thing, and these ones are even better. Since they have reach, they'll be able to block the birds we create for our opponents when the game is down to a 1v1. Next up, we have some removal spells that work wonders with Rendmaw. Eyeblight's ending is restrictive in that it can only destroy non-elf creatures, but in most cases there's likely going to be some sort of target for it. Necron Deathmark and Noxious Gearhulk are both artifact creatures that enter the battlefield and destroy a creature, with Necron Deathmark letting you mill someone for 3, and Noxious Gearhulk gaining you life when doing so. Lignify and Trickster's Elk are both transformation auras, which make an enchanted creature lose all abilities and modifies their power and toughness. Trickster's Elk has the added benefit of then becoming a 3/3 creature when the enchanted creature dies or otherwise becomes unattached, giving you additional benefit to playing the card. Another multiple card type benefit we can play off of is card draw. Dockside Chef and Erebos God of the Dead both let you draw cards in similar ways. They both cost 1 and a black to activate, with Erebos also costing 2 life, while the Dockside Chef has you sacrifice an artifact or creature. While Erebos is certainly the better of the two, both because life is generally easier to pay than sacrificing a creature, and it has additional benefits, Dockside Chef works wonders in this deck since you'll have sacrifice fodder in the form of birds that you create from Rendmaw's ability. Now for the ways we can gain benefit over our opponents with Rendmaw's ability, we have some Anthem effects that can make our birds larger than everyone else's. Adaptive Automaton is a great way to get a static +1/+1 for all of our birds, while Metallic Mimic makes them enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. Both are effective ways to help us win the beatdown race against our opponents, at least somewhat negating the fact that we're giving them creatures. Once we get down to a 1v1 in the game, the goaded aspect of the birds will become less relevant, since our opponent will now be able to, in fact be forced to, attack us. Since we don't want our opponent to beat us down with an army we provided them, we have a few ways to help mitigate this. Raking Canopy will do 4 damage to a flying creature when it attacks you, meaning your opponent's birds will have 4 damage dealt to them before they deal you combat damage, effectively meaning they'll die when they attack you. Golden Demise will do -2/-2 to all creatures, or only your opponent's creatures if you have the City's Blessing. The City's Blessing shouldn't be too hard to get since we'll be making a ton of tokens, making this an effective way to wipe out the birds you're making for your opponents at almost any point in the game. Doomwake Giant is a bit more of a setup to perform, since it will require playing 2 enchantments in a turn to trigger to kill the birds, but can also be a great way to wipe your opponent's boards. We also have some cards that will act as ways to finish the game quicker, by either helping our attacking birds kill quicker or abusing the death of our opponent's birds. Beastmaster Ascension is a quintessential attacking creature win con, as it can turn small 2/2 birds into 7/7 monsters very easily. Demolisher Spawn is similar to Beastmaster Ascension, but requires you to have Delirium and only gives +4/+4 to attacking creatures. Still, in a deck all about multiple card types, getting Delirium should be relatively easy to do, making this another effective way to end the game. Return of the Wildspeaker acts great as an overrun type pump spell, with the added benefit of also letting you draw cards if you need to in a pinch. We also have the all-powerful yet controversial card in Triumph of the Hordes, for cases where you want to end the game very quickly with poison. Urzuri's Predation turns all of those 2/2 birds you created for your opponents into 4/4 beasts for yourself, while simultaneously wiping those creatures from your opponent's fields. While this doesn't win you the game on the spot, since you need to attack with the beasts, it puts you into a great position to do so on the next turn. Massacre Worm enters and kills all of your opponent's bird creatures while also pinging them for 2 life for each one killed, meaning it can kill all of your opponents outright if they have enough birds or are at a low enough life total. Finally, we have some utility cards that work well with Rendmaw. Amulet of Vigor, like most of the decks it fits into, is likely the best card in this deck, as it makes all of the birds you create untapped instead of tapped. This means that if you can give them haste right away, they can attack, or potentially even better, they can also block your opponent's creatures. This will be particularly beneficial when it's down to a 1v1 match. Blood Artist and Bloodseeker both let us ping our opponents whenever a creature dies or enters, both of which will likely be happening quite a bit since everyone will be getting bird tokens. Bow of Nylea and Whip of Erebos both serve as a token creation effect with Rendmaw, and as a keyword tool for our birds, with the bow giving our attacking creatures death touch and the whip giving them lifelink. They also have great activated abilities that we can use in various situations, with the whips being especially great since it can reanimate a creature that may also trigger Rendmaw's ability. Here's an example deck list utilizing all the previously mentioned cards. Additional cards include more multiple card type spells in Gloomshrieker and Arasta of the Endless Web, card draw spells that work well with generating tokens in Village Rites and Deadly Dispute, and a plethora of lands that have multiple types like Dryad Arbor and Darkmoss Bridge. These types of lands are going to be some of the best ways to trigger Rendmaw, since they can't be responded to and, most of the time, can't be interacted with. I absolutely love commanders with unique themes like this. Relying on having to cast cards with multiple types to trigger Rendmaw's ability provides a great deck building challenge. Not to mention, the fact that you end up giving your opponents an army while building yours provides a nice gameplay challenge, forcing you to determine when to make more or hold back, or when to fire off removal to wipe out your opponent's birds. The fact that the birds come into play tapped is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it allows your opponent on your left to then attack your other opponents with their birds without them being able to block, which will then in turn tap down those attacking birds, allowing the other opponents to re-attack counterclockwise if they desire. It's a curse, however, when it comes down to a 1v1 match. Since the birds are goaded, they're forced to attack each combat. However, since your opponent has no other opponents to attack, they then have to attack you. You'll create birds on your turn from casting spells, which will allow them to untap their birds first while yours remain tapped, potentially meaning that they will have free reign to attack you with the birds you gave them. This is probably the biggest downside of Rendmaw and his ability. You're at a significant disadvantage in a 1v1 and have to hope that your remaining opponent is low enough on life that you can finish them quickly before they finish you with their birds. This is also why it's very important to have spells that either remove your opponent's birds or otherwise allows yours to enter untapped, just so you can prevent the crackback in the 1v1 situation. Beyond this, however, Rendmaw can be a very powerful and very fun commander, so I'd recommend giving this deck a try to see if it's for you. I hope you enjoyed watching this deck tech on Rendmaw Creaking Nest. The full deck list outlined in this video can be found at the Architect link at the top of the description. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to drop a like and comment, as well as subscribe to the channel for more Magic content. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.